Practical superhero movies generally refer to superhero films that emphasize realism in tone, setting, and consequences. They use practical effects more than CGI when possible and focus on grounded characters with relatively plausible abilities, like tech-based heroes instead of cosmic gods, and they explore real-world themes like politics, trauma, or societal issues. They contrast with more fantastical or heavily CGI-driven superhero films. Typically in these kinds of shows, the settings are more real-world, involving urban environments and modern politics. Here, heroes can be injured or killed, stakes feel tangible, and the superpowers are minimal or plausible, usually being science-based. The cinematography employed is grittier and more grounded, featuring more realistic action scenes. That's kind of why we love them. So, here's a look at 8 of our favorite practical effects superhero shows. Oh, but before we get into the list, we do have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. It's a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, 1993 to 97. Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman is an American superhero television series inspired by the DC Comics character Superman, who was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. The show stars Dean Cain as Clark Kent/Superman and Terry Hatcher as Lois Lane, and it originally aired on ABC from September 12, 1993 to June 14, 1997. Developed for TV by Deborah Joy Levine, the series draws from John Byrne's modern reimagining of Superman's origin, portraying Clark Kent as his real identity and Superman as his public persona. While it features the heroics of Superman, the show places equal emphasis on the evolving relationship and romance between Clark and Lois, making it as much a love story as a superhero tale. At its core, Lois and Clark reimagined the Superman mythos with a heavy emphasis on romantic comedy tropes. The heart of the show wasn't Superman's battles, but the dynamic relationship between Clark Kent and Lois Lane, full of witty banter, tension, flirtation, and emotional growth. Clark is the main character, not Superman. His life as a reporter and his evolving romance with Lois takes center stage. The show leaned into romantic comedy rhythms like Moonlighting or When Harry Met Sally, with mistaken identities, secret feelings, and emotional obstacles. Meanwhile, classic Superman elements like saving planes, stopping bullets, and fighting Lex Luthor were incorporated but treated as complementary rather than central to the narrative. How were the stunts achieved? Well, constrained by a 1990s TV budget, Lois and Clark made smart, creative use of practical effects. Flying sequences were achieved using wirework, often enhanced with the aid of fans and rear projection. Though not seamless by modern standards, they captured a convincing sense of flight and weight for the era. Crashes, explosions, and physical feats were often achieved through practical stunts rather than CGI, adding a tactile sense of realism. Miniature sets were frequently used for establishing shots of Metropolis or action-heavy sequences like collapsing buildings or rocket launches, giving a sense of scale without digital effects. These grounded techniques gave the show a tangible, almost theatrical feel, making it feel more timeless than many early CGI-heavy productions. What makes this show timeless? Well, unlike many shows of the 90s that leaned heavily on early and unconvincing CGI, Lois and Clark opted for practical effects and character-driven storytelling over flashy visuals. As a result, its visual style ages more gracefully, and practical wirework and models often look better decades later than dated computer graphics. The emotional core of the story is the evolving relationship between Lois and Clark, which remains relatable and engaging. It captured the essence of Superman without relying on large-scale destruction or space operas. That approach, rooted in human drama and charm, still resonates today. The Flash, 1990. The Flash starred John Wesley Shipp as Barry Allen, a forensic scientist struck by lightning who gains super speed and becomes the Scarlet Speedster. Shipp's performance struck a balance between earnest heroism and grounded vulnerability, giving the character depth beyond just action. The muscle suit, designed by Stan Winston Studios, famous for The Terminator and Aliens, was instantly iconic. Its deep, red, sculpted texture evoked a live-action comic book look which was visually bold and physically impressive. Unlike modern CGI-heavy speedsters, this Flash used practical running effects. Scenes often showed Shipp moving in place on a treadmill with wind and lightning effects to simulate velocity, which grounded the visuals in reality. They used miniatures, strobe lighting, and camera speed tricks for super speed to portray Flash's signature speed on a 1990s TV budget, and the show employed a toolkit of clever practical techniques. Miniature cityscapes were used for wide shots of the Flash racing across urban environments, providing a sense of scale without the need for digital animation. Strobe lighting enhanced the illusion of rapid movement, often creating an almost electric atmosphere when Flash entered or exited a scene. Undercranking, shooting at lower frame rates, and blur effects made Flash appear to zip through scenes, grab objects, or dodge bullets, done with in-camera speed manipulation, not post-production CGI. These effects weren't just cost-effective, they were stylistically consistent with comic book aesthetics, making each scene feel stylized and deliberate, rather than striving for realism. Why does it still hold up? The creative visuals give it a comic book authenticity. Despite lasting only one season, The Flash retains a cult appeal due to its bold, stylized design and inventive direction. Its neo-noir visual style, combined with a retro-futuristic soundtrack by Danny Elfman, gave it a pulpy comic book tone reminiscent of Batman the Animated Series, or even Tim Burton's Batman. It wasn't trying to be gritty or real, but it leaned into being a live-action comic, exaggerated visuals, bright colors, and theatrical villains. Its use of in-camera effects and physical artistry give it a timelessness that avoids the uncanny valley of early CGI attempts. Smallville, 2001 to 2011. Smallville is an American superhero TV series created by Alfred Gough and Miles Miller, once again based on DC Comics' iconic character Superman. The show was produced by Miller Gough Inc., Tallon Robbins Productions, DC Entertainment, and Warner Bros. Television. It debuted on the WB network on October 16, 2001, after the 5th season, when the WB merged with UPN to form the CW. The series continued airing there until its 10th and final season, which concluded on May 13, 2011. The series chronicles the early life of Clark Kent, played by Tom Welling, in the small town of Smallville, Kansas, before he embraces his destiny as Superman. The first 4 seasons mainly focus on Clark's high school years, his complicated relationship with his neighbor Lana Lang, played by Kristen Craik, and his evolving friendship with future adversary Lex Luthor, played by Michael Rosenbaum. As the series progresses into season 5 and beyond, it delves into Clark's transition into adulthood, exploring his work with Lois Lane, played by Erica Durance, at the Daily Planet, while also introducing other beloved DC Comics characters, including both heroes and villains. Smallville also explores Clark's friendship with Lex Luthor, which ultimately turns into a rivalry, as well as his ongoing romantic entanglement with Lana. As the series progresses, Clark moves from Smallville to Metropolis. He eventually finds his true partner in Lois Lane, as fans knew he would all along. The show relied on wire stunts, real explosions, and practical makeup for meteor freaks. Smallville set itself apart from other superhero shows of the time by leaning heavily on practical effects. Instead of overusing CGI, it showcased wire stunts for super speed, super jumps, and Clark's strength-based feats, lending physical realism to his powers. They also conducted real explosions and destruction effects for action sequences, especially in the earlier seasons set in Smallville's rural and industrial areas. Practical makeup and prosthetics create the meteor freaks, villains mutated by kryptonite. This grounded their appearances in the real world, making them more tactile and creepier than CGI monsters. While the show did utilize some CGI, especially for heat vision, X-ray vision, and some large-scale effects, it wasn't overdone. Instead, it struck a balance with CGI that enhanced the story when needed but didn't overwhelm. Many of Clark's powers were shown through clever camera work and physical elements. This approach made the show feel more like a character drama with sci-fi elements, rather than a pure visual effects showcase. Why does this show still hold up? Its gritty, no tights, no flights aesthetic grounded Superman's origin. The show's long-standing rule, no tights, no flights, meant no Superman costume and no flying for Clark Kent, at least until the very end. This creative limitation kept the story grounded in real-world teenage and young adult struggles, making Clark more relatable. It framed his transformation into Superman not as a sudden event, but as a slow human journey, learning responsibility, dealing with loss, betrayal, and identity. The gritty tone and emotional depth gave the show a timeless appeal. Rather than a superhero fantasy, Smallville felt more like a coming-of-age story with mythic undertones. In short, Smallville still resonates because it combined grounded storytelling and authentic effects to reimagine Superman's origin with realism and heart.
We're gonna save the world! All right, let's do it!
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, 1993 to 96. This show is renowned for its practical stunt choreography, impressive monster costumes, and miniature city battles. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers became iconic thanks to its practical hands-on approach to action. Stunt-heavy martial arts choreography gave the Rangers fights energy and flair, formed by skilled stunt actors in full suits. Elaborate monster costumes, often bulky and creatively designed, gave the villains a tactile and campy charm. The Megazord battles were filmed using miniature cities and suitmation, echoing the style of classic kaiju films, complete with sparks, explosions, and over-the-top destruction. The show's unique production was a mix of Japanese tokusatsu footage from Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger and later the Super Sentai series, used for action scenes, monster fights, and Zord battles. The US segments were filmed new, featuring American actors as the Rangers in their civilian lives, handling the drama, comedy, and high school storylines. This hybrid format kept production costs low while delivering exciting action, making the show accessible to Western audiences. Why does it still hold up? Its tactile monster designs and kaiju fights remain fun to watch even today. Even decades later, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers retains nostalgic appeal due to its practical effects, from sparks flying off suits to smoke-filled monster battles. It still feels more visceral and fun than CGI-heavy modern counterparts. The Monster of the Week format keeps things fresh and weird in every episode. The kaiju-style Megazord fights with real suits and miniature cities are charmingly old school and still entertaining. In short, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers endures because its mix of practical action, outrageous monster designs, and retro kaiju-style battles provides a timeless, tactile fun that CGI just can't replicate. Superboy, 1988 to 92. Superboy is an American TV series that explored the early adventures of DC Comics' Superman during his youth as Superboy. Developed by Alexander and Ilya Salkind, the father and son team behind the original Superman films, the show aired in syndication for 4 seasons from 1988 to 1992. John Hames Newton portrayed Superboy in the first season but was replaced by Gerard Christopher for the remaining 3 seasons. Beginning with season 3, the series was rebranded as The Adventures of Superboy. Superboy leaned hard into practical effects typical of late 80s TV. They used wire-rigged flight scenes to bring the titular hero to life with visible but charming attempts at believable flying. There were stunt-heavy brawls, with Superboy punching villains through walls or tossing them across rooms, which relied on physical choreography and crash mats, not post-production tricks. With minimal CGI available and even less budget for it, the show emphasized physicality and in-camera effects to showcase Superboy's powers, focused heavily on comic book villains to bring it to life with costumes and prosthetics. The series dove into Superman's rogues gallery, using practical costumes and makeup to portray villains like Lex Luthor, Metallo, Bizarro, and others. Though sometimes campy, these designs had a handmade quality that reflected deep comic book roots. The show didn't shy away from sci-fi or supernatural elements, it embraced them with prosthetics, visual tricks, and theatrical flair, aiming to bring Silver Age-style comics to the screen. Why does it still hold up? This one holds up due to its earnest, low-budget creativity that captures old-school charm. Despite its budget limitations, Superboy has aged with a kind of retro appeal. Its sincere tone, straightforward morality, and focus on classic heroism flex a different era of superhero storytelling. The show's ambition, despite its limitations, utilizing physical sets, hand-built props, and old-school visual effects, gives it a DIY charm. For fans of vintage Superman or late 80s TV sci-fi, Superboy still delivers a nostalgic, earnest take on superhero TV, polished but full of heart. In short, Superboy endures because of its honest, low-budget take on superheroics, combining practical effects and comic book loyalty, old-school charm that's hard to replicate today. The Incredible Hulk, 1978 to 1982. The Incredible Hulk is an American TV series inspired by the Marvel Comics character of the same name. It aired on CBS and starred Bill Bixby as Dr. David Banner and Jack Colvin as Jack McGee, as well as Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk. The series centers on Dr. David Banner, a brilliant but tormented scientist who is believed to be dead. Traveling across the U.S. under assumed identities, Banner tries to stay under the radar while secretly living with a dangerous condition. Following a failed experiment, his body was altered at the cellular level, causing him to transform into the Hulk, a massive, uncontrollable, green-skinned force of destruction whenever he becomes angry or stressed. While constantly on the move, Banner takes on odd jobs to survive, continues his quest to find a cure. All the while, he's pursued by relentless tabloid reporter Jack McGee, who sees the Hulk as a deadly menace and is determined to uncover the truth, hoping it will make his name in the press. Lou Ferrigno's transformation sequences, featuring practical makeup and prosthetics, were a hallmark of the series, particularly its slow-burn, dramatic Hulk transformations. The transformation would include Bill Bixby as Dr. David Banner, grimacing, tearing at his shirt, and his eyes would glow, setting the stage for the change. These expressions were cues for Lou Ferrigno, a professional bodybuilder, to step in. He would emerge in full green body paint, practical prosthetics, and a wild wig, physically embodying the Hulk without the use of digital effects. The transformations used time-lapse makeup, rubber appliances, and clever camera work, creating a sense of visceral tension and realism. There were car-flipping, wall-smashing, and chase sequences, but the show's action was entirely practical and grounded in reality. Hulk didn't punch through CGI walls, he actually smashed through real sets, flipped real cars, tore doors off hinges. Chase scenes, crashes, and confrontations were physically performed, making the destruction feel tangible and dangerous. These practical stunts added grit and believability to the comic book premise, setting it apart from flashier, effects-heavy counterparts. Why does it still hold up? Physicality gave Hulk a weight modern CGI sometimes lacks. Modern CGI Hulks might look more detailed, but Lou Ferrigno's real-world presence, his mass, his breathing, and his grunts gave the Hulk a raw physicality that can't be fully replicated digitally. The intensity of his performance, combined with real sets and practical effects, makes every outburst feel grounded and human. The show's emotional storytelling, with Banner as a tragic figure on the run, paired with this physical realism, gives the series a timeless, character-driven appeal. In short, The Incredible Hulk holds up because Lou Ferrigno's physical performance and the show's practical effects gave the monster genuine weight, making it feel more real and emotionally powerful than many modern CGI versions. Batman, 1966 to 68. Batman is a live-action TV series based on the classic DC Comics superhero. Starring Adam West as Bruce Wayne and Batman and Burt Ward as Dick Grayson/Robin, the show follows the Caped Crusaders as they defend Gotham City from a host of colorful and eccentric villains. Famous for its campy style, upbeat theme music, and lighthearted moral messaging aimed at younger viewers, the series quickly became a cultural sensation. It aired on ABC for 3 seasons from January 12, 1966 to March 14, 1968, producing a total of 120 episodes. The show initially aired twice weekly during its first 2 seasons, and switched to a weekly format for the third. A feature-length film was also released in 1966 between the first and second seasons. For many years, Batman held the record for the most episodes for any live-action superhero TV series, a title it retained until Smallville surpassed it in 2007. The show is campy but iconic, and this version of Batman fully embraced camp and comedy, turning the Dark Knight into a colorful, straight-faced do-gooder in a world of absurd villains and over-the-top plots. It wasn't trying to be gritty or realistic, it was a live-action comic book come to life, full of tongue-in-cheek dialogue and moral lessons. Despite the silliness, it became culturally iconic, influencing generations of Batman fans and pop culture at large. The show's charm came from its clever, low-budget practical effects. Punch sound effects like Biff and Pow exploded onto screen with colorful title cards during fight scenes, emphasizing the comic book roots. The famous wall-climbing scenes were just Batman and Robin walking sideways on a tilted set, with capes pulled by wires to simulate gravity. Brightly colored sets, handmade costumes, and practical stunts gave the show a consistent, stylized look that was both theatrical and inventive. Its low-tech ingenuity still looks great today. The show's DIY approach and visual creativity make it visually timeless. Rather than aiming for realism, it created its own quirky world that still feels cohesive and fun. The costumes, sets, and effects may be simple, but they're bold, imaginative, and full of personality. It's a reminder that style and creativity matter more than budget, and that being playful with limitations can create something lasting. In short, Batman 1966 remains a beloved classic because of its campy tone, practical creativity, and bold visual style that still holds up today. It's proof that clever, low-tech fun can be just as iconic as big-budget spectacle. Wonder Woman, 1975 to 1979. Wonder Woman is an American superhero TV series based on the DC Comics character of the same name. The show stars Linda Carter as Wonder Woman, Lyle Waggoner, and Diana Prince. It ran for 3 seasons from 1975 to 79. The first season aired on ABC and was set during the 1940s amidst the backdrop of World War II. When the series moved to CBS for its second and third seasons, the setting shifted to the late 70s to reflect contemporary times, and the show was retitled The New Adventures of Wonder Woman. One of the most memorable elements of the show was Diana Prince's transformation into Wonder Woman. Linda Carter would perform a simple spin, and through a well-timed camera cut, she'd reappear in full costume. Though low-tech, it was an elegant and effective visual trick, often enhanced with sound effects and brief flashes of light. The spin became so iconic that it defined the character in pop culture for decades. A symbol of empowerment and transformation, the series leaned into practical effects to deliver its action. There were wire rigs that helped Linda Carter leap great distances or deflect bullets with her bracelets. There were real explosions, chase scenes, and carefully designed sets, from World War II battlefields to 1970s cityscapes, which gave the show a grounded yet adventurous feel. Without CGI, the show relied on ingenuity and stunt work to make Wonder Woman's powers feel believable and exciting for the time. Why does it still hold up? Carter's performance and the practical flair remain iconic. Linda Carter's portrayal of Wonder Woman is still celebrated because she brought a sense of grace, strength, warmth, and authority to the role, making Diana both heroic and deeply relatable. The show's practical effects and action sequences feel refreshingly real today, offering a nostalgic charm that still entertains. Its blend of optimism, camp, and superhero spectacle captures a specific, joyful era of TV history. In short, Wonder Woman endures because of Linda Carter's timeless performance and the show's clever, practical approach to superhero storytelling, proving that sincerity and style can outlast any era. Marvelous verdict. As the name suggests, these practical superhero shows came at a cost. Actors were often required to be both actors and stunt performers, as seen in many instances, such as the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, where martial artists were hired to play acting roles. Dean Cain recently reflected on his time filming Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, describing it as a life-changing experience, but one that came with physical challenges. He revealed that the wire work used for flying scenes was extremely uncomfortable, often cutting off circulation and leaving co-star Terry Hatcher in tears due to the pain. Cain also shared the difficulties of wearing the tight Superman suit, especially during hot Los Angeles days, noting issues with sweating and discomfort. Despite these struggles, Cain views the role as a major turning point in his career. Michael Rosenbaum, who played Lex Luthor in Smallville, told The Hollywood Reporter that the stunt for the pilot was shot in a 12-foot water tank, which Welling recalls being about 50 feet wide. Both actors had to take scuba lessons beforehand, but it was Rosenbaum who had to be put in the car 12 feet underwater. It was tough, but they managed to do it. Also, back in the Smallville days, a superhero wearing a suit and performing unreal stunts wasn't considered too believable, so they had to keep it real, ensuring effective stunts and a powerful story. These days, superhero shows with CGI and many other advanced techniques allow directors to focus on acting rather than performing tedious tasks. It was a golden era, and we love to think about it, but unfortunately, that's the end of our video. As always, if you enjoyed our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.